Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabetch Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabetch Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results, the podcast where we interview experts to learn about tips and techniques to improve our presentation skills so that we can get our listeners to do what we want them to do. Whether you're speaking to inspire your team in the middle of a meeting, or you're in a sales conversation, an enrollment conversation, or maybe you're actually maybe you're getting up on stage and speaking to inspire people or promote your company, promote your services. It's all presentation skills. And the good thing is there are hundreds and hundreds of tools and techniques that we can use to get to speak strategically so that we get the results we want. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to go over to take our free assessment, which is at www.speakforresultsquiz.com. That's speakforresultsquiz.com. And you could take an assessment, takes 4 or 5 minutes, to see where your presentation skills are strong and where you might need a little bit of support. And now I am very excited to bring in and introduce to you all my friend, Stephen Campbell. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Oh, great.
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be fun. Stephen's a very experienced speaker and really a mentor. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a mentor. He wrote a seminal book called Making Your Mind Magnificent, which is totally what I want to ask you about today.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he now teaches audiences how our brains conform to the messages we give them. He then shows how we can flip negative thinking and actually embrace change to realize our dreams. He acquired his master's at University of San Francisco to pursue his greatest love, teaching. For the last 30 years, he's been presenting easy to understand principles about the brain that can be immediately applied to improve the quality of our thoughts and lives. He's also a regular speaker at the Commonwealth Club of San Francisco, very prestigious venue, Steve, bravo. He's also a radio host and he's an adjunct instructor at Sonoma State University. So Steve, before we start, I'd like to ask you, if you were to be on stage, who would be your dream interview? If you were to be on stage with somebody from history, who would it be? What would you ask them about? And who should be listening?
That's a really good question. You know, you could put on Einstein and all this, but the person that I would most love to talk about was one of the main founders of cognitive psychology. His name was Dr. Albert Ellis. And he wrote a little book, a seminal book called A Guide to Rational Living, which turned psychology on its ear back in the early 60s. More things came out in the 60s than just the Flower Children. What he suggested has really switched what psychology can do for us. And it's very simple. That's why I love him. What he suggested is that everything that we can do today primarily is based on what we say to ourselves about ourselves today. Now that seems pretty obvious, but back prior to the 60s, psychology said, no, the way you are today is based on your childhood, unresolved childhood conflicts. That was Freudianism. Then they said, no, it's all cause and effect. That was Dr. Skinner's work. Then it's all in your genes, and they said it's all in your environment. And Dr. Ellis came back and he said something really interesting. He said, you know what, I think they're all true. And when I heard that, I said, what are you, crazy? They couldn't be all true. And he said, yes, they can, because your brain believes what you tell it. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, when I said to myself for the first 42 years of my life, I'm really dumb in math, guess what, Elizabeth? I was really dumb in math. And then some things happened, and I began teaching it, and I discovered not only am I really smart in math, I love teaching it. And I ended up writing 2 college textbooks on math. What was the point? The point was this, and this goes back to Dr. Ellis. If everything we can do today is primarily based on what we say to ourselves about ourselves today, we can change what we are saying to ourselves about ourselves when, Elizabeth?
Today.
Right now.
Right now,
this
today.
moment. And what's so wonderful about the brain is the brain believes everything you tell it. So when you say, I'm replacing, like I said to myself, I'm replacing these messages of I'm really dumb in math with I love teaching math, it's really fun, and the more I teach it, the more brilliant I get. The brain just says, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, you're absolutely true, I believe it. And then what happens is that you lock onto those new messages and your brain rewires itself. This is called neuroplasticity by the work of Dr. Eric Campbell.
So, Steve.
Yes.
We're going to get to that in a minute, but just quickly. So you were going to talk to him. What would you ask him?
How did he come up with the fact that everything we can do today is based on what we say to ourselves about ourselves today? That's really tricky, because for decades, Freudians would say the way you are today is because of your childhood, and the way our brain works, the brain says, yes, you're right, you're absolutely right, and then makes it true. How did he switch that? He said, no, the way you are today is based on what you're saying yourself today. How'd you come up with your self-talk? Self-talk is so incredibly important because the brain believes what you tell it. And I ask, how did he come up with that? How did he deliver that?
Okay. And who should be listening?
Oh gosh, this really applies to anyone who wants to grow. This applies to business people. This applies to drug addicts. This applies to mothers and grandmothers and people who are running families. It applies to anyone who says, I want to grow in this area or that area. I want to be better here. I want to be better there. And the wonderful thing about the brain is the brain just says, okay.
Wow.
And finds ways for it to become true.
So this takes us to the title of our podcast today. And I confess there was a piece of me that said, I didn't want to do yet another start the new year with goals. Yeah. Except that I know you, and I know that your work really works. And I know you've been speaking for a long time about how to create a goal that you'll actually achieve. And so I'm speaking as somebody who sort of gave up on the word goals because mostly because, it was like, what was that goal weight? I never got to a goal weight. I'm still not at that goal weight. And, I'm one of those people who also joins Weight Watchers in the January special and then drops out. It's that same 10 pounds. I lose that 10 pounds. I gain it back again. I lose that. So somewhere underneath there, I've been thinking as I was listening to you, somewhere underneath there, my brain, or I'm telling my brain is telling me, okay, join Weight Watchers, but it's just, $44 a month out, when it's never going to really work.
It's never going to really work.
So help. How do we do a goal that will actually work? All
right. First of all, I always tell my clients this, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you create this goal and it doesn't work at first. And I'll tell you how to create goals that work. Your brain doesn't want you to lose that weight, Elizabeth. The brain doesn't want you to change. The brain wants to keep you the same. The brain looks upon change as risky because it's different, and your brain's job is to keep you safe. So don't be surprised when people all set up these wonderful goals and they don't get met, because the brain, if you don't create the goal correctly so that it works, which I'll share with you in just a minute, the brain's going to fight you tooth and nail for that goal to become a part of you. Okay? So don't be surprised at that. So that's number one. That should make you feel better. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Everyone experienced that. That's why most self-images, I mean, most New Year's resolutions don't work. And so maybe the best way to begin with this is a story, a true story, and then I'll share with you the psychology behind it. My wife and I have been married for almost 50 years, and for the first 10 she smoked. She would smoke in the morning, and every January she'd say, this is the year I'm going to start smoking, and then da-da-da-da. And she would stop for maybe a week or 2 weeks, and then she'd go back to smoking. Why is that? Because, and this is key, she never saw herself as a non-smoker.
Ah.
She never said, I am a non-smoker. She said, I'm a smoker who don't smoke. Well, that doesn't make sense to her brain. And the brain said, listen, if you're a smoker, you smoke. And she did. So she did that for a long time. Then finally, one summer, she flew back to watch her father die of emphysema. And I picked her up at the airport. She looked at me and she said, you are looking at a non-smoker. And she hasn't smoked since. What happened? While she watched her father die, she said, I am replacing this self-image of a smoker with one who was a non-smoker. And her brain said, okay, is it true? Don't care. All I care about is you're telling you. Now, that's an extreme. I mean, most people aren't going to watch their father die to create a goal. So let me share with you the techniques to create goals that work. And I need to get into some
but
psychology.
What I do think is key is this is dealing with a physical addiction too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, like the whole thing about food and so forth. It's addiction to sugar. For me, at least, it's addiction to sugar. Yeah. So saying to myself, I'm somebody who, you know, I am fit and trim. I wish, can I just take a pill and be 20 pounds lighter and strong tomorrow? That's really what, I mean, this is what American society wants us to do, right? Leads us to believe.
Yes. So let me share with you the steps, and I'll begin with me.
Steps.
First of all, most of the goals that we verbalize are verbalized incorrectly. So let me give you a story. My father died when he was very young. Mary said to me, if you die early, I'll kill you. Because I don't be a widow for 40 years like your mom's going to be, which she was. I was 40 pounds more than I weigh now. And so I said, I need to lose this weight. So I'd get up and run and swim, and I would lose maybe 2 or 3 pounds a week and gain it all back on the weekend. I did that for 25 years, Elizabeth, 25 years. I could not lose the weight. I mean, I would exercise and then I gained it all back.
So what works?
Well, let me share with you a story that illustrates what does work. My father died when he was very young. And Mary said to me as we were driving from the memorial service, if you die early, I will kill you. Because I do not want to be a widow for 40 years. And I was about 40 pounds more than I weigh now. So I would get up and swim and run, and I would lose maybe 3 or 4 pounds a week, and I would gain it back on the weekend. I did that for 25 years.
Oh, I feel better then. Thank you.
Yeah. The reason I could not lose the weight is because of this. I would look at myself in the mirror, Elizabeth, and I would say to myself, you are a 240-pound man who's got to lose 40 pounds. When I said you are a 240-pound man, do you know what my brain said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, you are. I believe everything you tell it. But not only that, I'll make sure that you stay at 240 pounds. Because that's how you see yourself. As reflected by that's what you're saying to yourself about yourself. And it worked. I didn't lose the weight. After 25 years after 25 years of this, I said, well, this isn't working for me. So I began studying psychology. And I began studying all sorts of other things in Gestalt psychology. And I realized that I was giving myself the wrong message, Elizabeth. I was saying you are a 240-pound man, and my brain said, yes, you are, and I'll keep you there. So I created what is called an affirmation. Now, affirmation has gotten a lot of bad press. An affirmation is not magical. It is simply a statement that, when written correctly, triggers a picture in your mind of a goal as if it has already been accomplished. So let me illustrate. I wrote an affirmation, and it said, I weigh 200 pounds and I look fantastic. Wow. When I first wrote it, my brain freaked out. It said, wait a minute, Steve. Reality check here. Look at the scale. Look at the mirror. You don't weigh 200 pounds. You weigh 240. And that's when I said to myself, no, I'm locking on to 200. That's how I see myself. And every single time I sit down for a meal, I say to myself, I'm a 200-pound person, so don't eat like 240-pound individual. Was that easy at first? Of course not. Because I have been saying I've been telling myself these negative messages for years.
Right.
I switched it and I said, I look great at 200 pounds. So when I sat down for a meal, I asked myself, how does a 200-pound person eat? Well, he doesn't have all the butter and all the crackers and all the desserts and all the other stuff. Basically, he has a meal and that's it, and a lot of water. Here's what happens. The more I did that, the more my brain rewired itself to the point where I saw myself in my brain at 200 pounds, even though at first I was 240, and then 235, and then 230, and eventually the weight came down. The key to keeping these goals alive is that you're seeing yourself as if it's already there.
That's great. So let me ask you then a follow-up question. So if this is, say, business, and this podcast is about presentation skills to get people to do what you want them to do, to speak to get a result. And this, of course, is the foundation of all of that. How do you use this when setting a goal to get other people to do what you want them to do?
Good question. You first of all need to give them your vision.
Okay.
They need to see what you're looking at. They need to see your mission, your vision for their company or their business. They need to have the same feelings you have. You see, we're not thinking people who feel, we're feeling people who think. And so it's not a matter of simply putting down a goal. It's a matter of, why is this goal here? What can it do for the company? And what can it do for me? Why is it so important that this goal be created and be met? Right. That's the key to it. They need to see the vision. If it's just a goal that someone has set up for you, you're not going to have any motivation to get it done.
Right.
You're really not. It has to come from the heart. It's got to come from what you're feeling.
So if you're say making a presentation, well, if maybe your goal is to get more customers, get more clients.
Yes.
That's pretty nebulous. I'm not saying negative, nebulous. It's interesting that negative came out of my mouth when I thought about getting more customers. Don't know if my brain was doing that on purpose or not. Don't you have to be a little bit more specific?
Yes, you really do. I have a whole chapter in my book on affirmations, and there's about 12 different guidelines to creating affirmations that actually work. But one of the guidelines that I really place an emphasis on is to be specific rather than making so much more money or losing so much weight or impairing or replacing a relationship or improving one. How much money exactly do you want to make per month? Not just per year. If you want to make $120,000 in a year, what's that per month, which is $10,000? And I put that someplace where I can see it every day. Or how much weight exactly do I want to lose? Or when I say I want to repair a relationship, what does that mean? Does that mean I call this person every day or every week, or I take them out to lunch, or I send them little notes? What exactly are you looking for? We need to go back to understanding that the brain doesn't want you to meet these goals, so that the more fuzzy they are, the less the brain has to meet them, because it doesn't know really what you're looking for. But when you're saying, I weigh 200 pounds and I'm 240, but I lock onto 200 pounds, eventually my brain will say, you're serious about this. I need to figure out a way to make this true in your life.
So say, I have 5 new clients this month, or I'm going to be promoted. I mean, how would you phrase it so that it comes out as, I'm just thinking out loud here. Would it be, I will do the things it takes to.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest reasons why affirmations don't work. When you first write an affirmation, and I have helped thousands of clients write affirmations, they usually start with a statement, not an affirmation. The statement is, I have 5 clients per month. And you know what your brain says to that?
No, you don't.
It goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Who cares? That doesn't get me excited, because what you're doing, Elizabeth, is you are competing with what you've been doing in the past. So when I said I weigh 200 pounds, my brain yawned.
Yeah.
Because it didn't care. But when I began saying, oh my gosh, look at me, I look fantastic. This is so neat. The brain gets up and says, ooh, that's kind of exciting. Let's figure out a way to get there. So the key is to make this affirmation so exciting and so thrilling and something that gets you jazzed up that your brain can't possibly imagine going back to the old way. And it always has to be, and this is really important, I'll share with you a story.
So how do we make these goals exciting? Yes, if you say, I look fabulous at only 200 pounds, how would it then be for getting people to promote you?
Yeah. Well, what you need to do in terms of getting people to promote you is to show them why and what you can do in terms of after you are promoted. What is so exciting about you that promotion is something that's so normal and natural? They need to get as excited about it as you are. And one of the keys to doing that is to changing from the future to the present. So let me illustrate. If you have a goal that says, I will have 5 new clients starting in 2020, the brain says, good luck. Hope you do. That's wonderful. What you want to say is, I've got 5 clients already in the wings. They're already there. I just need to find them.
Okay.
I need to find out where they are, because they're waiting. They're waiting to become one of my best clients and to share with everyone else the amazing service that I can give to them.
Okay.
So it needs to be in the present tense, never the future. I will someday, the brain says, I hope you do, sounds great, doesn't make any sense to me. But when you say, I'm already making this money, I already have these clients, I've already making these trips, I'm already there, and you're not there, this is where we get into Gestalt psychology. Your brain says, I don't like gaps. That's Gestalt. I hate gaps. We got to close the gap. So if you don't have the 5 clients, but you're saying that you do, your brain will find a way to get those clients on your side. The
Okay.
brain finds a way, but you need to put it in the present tense.
My brain is saying, oh, this is nonsense. This will never work.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I could see why you would need to practice about it, because
You need to
I'm
practice.
going, yeah, but really.
And what you want to keep reminding yourself is, because people get down on themselves when they say this and they listen to their negative self-talk, they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what we say to ourselves, Elizabeth, is negative stuff.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
isn't just anyone. This is a characteristic of the human trait. It really began with Shad Helmstedter's book, what we say when we talk to ourselves, but it's been validated all around the world. Most of our self-talk is negative.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
When we become aware of the negative stuff we're saying to ourselves, we can say, wait a minute. I used to think that way, not anymore. I'm thinking this way.
Oh, I like that.
And you
Yes.
lock onto it, and it becomes just a natural way of thinking. It becomes your mindset, and then it becomes who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so exciting about this. It becomes who you are. So you don't have to think about it.
So, Steve, can you talk about how this has helped clients of yours or people you've worked with?
Yes, I have done a lot of work with insurance companies, and I find that if the agents write down, for instance, 2020 is coming, if the agents write down exactly how much money they want to make, how many clients they want to have, how many trips, and put them someplace where they can see them,
Mm-hmm.
more and more of those agents get what they want.
Yeah.
Because the brain knows what doesn't, if you don't have those goals, the brain won't know what to look for. But when you have that goal in front of you, the brain says, oh, we need to find a way to put in that extra $10,000 for this month, or whatever, or make that extra $10,000. It always has to be in front of you.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you'll forget about it.
Right.
Because
right.
you get so caught up in just everyday living.
Yeah, it's that first thing in the morning, looking
That's
at
right.
it, or post
That's
it up
right.
everywhere.
That's right.
And put it up everywhere around your house. And if your family thinks you're crazy,
Yeah.
they'll stop thinking you're crazy when you're
Yeah.
bringing in an
Yeah.
extra 10, 20,000 a month, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I had an amazing story. I do a lot of work with realtors, and they do the same thing. This one realtor said to me, I made a model of the house I wanted, right down to the bushes and the trees. And lo and behold, when I was showing the house, I turned the corner and there it was, and I bought it myself.
Wow. Cool.
Because I knew that was what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's why goals are so important, because if you don't create goals for yourself, the brain won't know what to look for. The brain will just, so people who are the luckiest are the people who have created goals for themselves. So when that thing comes along, they grab it, because that's part of where they want to be.
So are there ways to get help with this? Because again, one of the things my brain tells me is you'll never be able to do this alone. Or let's just say, I know from experience that accountability is what will make me make these changes.
Well, reading books can help. I recommend my own book.
Making Your Mind Magnificent.
Making Your Mind Magnificent. Psychology Today has got a wonderful website that has all the articles they've ever written, and they're classified with that, so you can look at that. Talk to people who have already been there or who you admire. Listen to radio programs. The internet has got some wonderful things. There's all sorts of ways to look at.
Well, Stephen, I notice you are not talking about your online course.
Oh.
Yes. Please tell us about this. Was a hint, Stephen, to get you to.
Sorry.
You get so into helping people. I know this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I have been teaching an online course. Actually, I've been teaching an all-day course for many, many, many years. And then I had open heart surgery this year, and my daughter sat me down and she said, Daddy, you can't be traveling around. So she videotaped my online course that I my all-day course that I give in Silicon Valley, and it's available now on the internet.
It's available on your website.
Yes, on
which
my
is
website.
StephenRCampbell.com.
That's right.
Yes.
It's available there.
Yeah.
And people love it. They absolutely love it.
And people I know, everybody I know, the reason I started working with you is because people said, life-changing, life-changing, life-changing. That was the thing that came up over and over again.
Yeah.
Stephen Campbell, this is so much fun. And I know that you've got StephenRCampbell.com. Mm-hmm. And you also have a radio show where we could maybe hear you. Can we hear that over the internet?
Yes, you can. In fact, it is over the internet. It's KOWSFM.com. And it's Wednesdays from 9 to 11.
Okay.
And I have a specific subject that I talk about, but I also have very, very, very mellow music in between. I love mellow music. So
I like mellow music.
Yeah.
To calm us down on the hump day. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stephen Campbell, this has been so amazing to do.
Thank you.
Those of you who are listening, ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners, please go to the show notes for this episode, where there will be all sorts of interview about the brilliant Stephen Campbell. And I think I'm going to have you on to talk about some other things, because there's a whole list of subjects I still want to ask you, and we're out of time for today. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate it.
All right. So this has been Elizabeth Bachman and Speakers Who Get Results. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to go to speakforresultsquiz.com, where you can take our short assessment to see where your presentation skills are good. And I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.